everybody, Palm Springs Cindy. First of all, I want to say thank you to Rockstar Mom Patty for announcing and making that beautiful video for Shelbe, honoring Shelbe. And I want to say thank you to all the viewers on Patty's channel, all the viewers from my channel that took the time and wrote beautiful comments. So many of you guys wrote the most lovely comments that really helped to comfort me, that really helped me to understand how precious you guys are as a community of friends. And I just want to say a very special, heartfelt thank you to everyone in our YouTube community that knew Shelbe and loved Shelbe and looked forward to seeing Shelbe. And I want to tell you a little bit more about the situation. My last day with Shelbe. I knew that she had not been feeling well for, I'm going to say, maybe 2 weeks. But I kind of shrugged it off. We still took our walks. We went on the golf cart. She seemed pretty normal. But I just noticed that she was sleeping a little bit more. She was a little more lethargic. And then the biggest red flag came when she started drinking she started drinking a lot of water. And so I thought, well, what's up with that? But it started turning really hot. It started becoming like 88, 90, 92 degrees here in the area. So I thought, well, that's what it is. She's drinking a lot of water because she's thirsty. It's hotter outside. And so there were like 3 days that happened, 2 days. And then the third day I took her into the emergency room. And those last 3 days, she just plummeted. I could tell she was really losing weight, even though she was eating and her body functions seemed to be normal. But she vomited twice in a day, and she wet on the couch, which she has never done anything like that. So I noticed that I'm going to say she was becoming incontinent. So between the vomiting, the drinking, and the incontinence, that was like, I'll say 2 days of that. And then the third day in the morning, it was like 7 in the morning, and I took her to the local VCA ER hospital. And so they asked me, I told them the symptoms over the phone, and they said, come on in. They're like 5 miles away, if that. So I went in, and they just did an oral, tell us what's going on again, and I did. And then they said, okay, well, we're going to give you some paperwork to fill out. And then they took Shelbe. I had brought her little blanket with us. So they took her, and she was very lethargic. She wasn't nervous. Well, she probably was, but she didn't show it. She was very lethargic. She didn't fight anything. So I passed her to the lady, and then the next thing I knew, they said, come on back. So I went back into the little office, and the doctor came out and said that they had checked her vitals, and that she said, I'm pretty sure, something is wrong with Shelbe. And she said, I do have a medical plan, and I'm going to go over that plan with you. And so they said, the doctor said, I'm going to start with a blood sample. Then I'm going to do a ultrasound if the blood sample leads me a certain direction. Anyway, there were like 5 things on the medical plan. And then she said, are you okay with that? And I said, yes. And so the vet said, okay, I'm going to send in the finance lady. So the finance lady came in and went over the cost of everything, which was quite extensive. It was close to $1,300. And so she said, what I would like to do is have you pay the full amount. Now, if we do the blood test and it comes back normal, then we will give you back the rest of your money minus the cost of the blood test, and so on. So I said, fine. They said she would probably be there all day, and they would call me when they needed me. So I came home, and it was only a few hours later, and they called and said, come on in. And so I went in, and the vet came out and said that the blood work, the ultrasound, and so on had shown that Shelby was in full-blown diabetes and that her kidneys were shutting down. That the vet said she was dying, and that if it was her dog, she would euthanize. It's hard for me to even say, you guys. I'm like, so she said, you know, do you want to think about it? Do you want to go home and think about it? And I said, no, I agree with you. She said she won't survive surgery. There's really nothing we can do. And so I said, I understand. So anyway, they said, okay, this is how it works. And they said, we are going to put an IV in Shelby's leg, or I think she already had one, I can't remember. And then we're going to bring her in. And then when you're ready, press this button, and someone will come in and they will administer a solution into her IV. And that will make her sleep. And then once we are ready, then another solution will be put in, and that will stop her heart. And you can stay here as long as you want. And I said, okay. So the worst part was waiting for them to put the IV in. That's probably what it was. And bring Shelby into the room. I had her bed with me and her blanket with me. And so they brought her into the room, and she just looked pitiful. She was thin, and she was like a limp rag. She had this red IV in her little tiny arm. And so I cried. I loved on her. I told her how wonderful she was, how I loved her, how good of a dog she had been. She was my friend. She was my confidant. She was my roommate. She was my little love. She was my counselor because I could talk to her about my problems. And, we had our own, as you guys know that are dog owners, we had our own language. I knew every twitch of her face. I knew what she was telling me. Every little movement of her body, I knew what she wanted. Every little bark or purr or cry, I knew what that meant. And she knew my body language as well. So it was horrible. That's all I can say. And I knew the day was coming, but I thought I would have her longer. I thought I would have her at least 3 more years-ish. All right, I decided she is going to be cremated alone, no other dogs with her. And then they're going to give me a copy or a little cement cast of her foot. And they said that would take a couple of weeks, so that should be coming shortly. I had always thought that when something did happen to Shelby, I would get a dog as soon as I could. I loved having her here when I came home. I loved having her run out to greet me. I loved walking in and seeing her little pumpkinhead face sticking up over the couch, kind of sleepy-eyed, that I had woken her up. I loved her presence in the house. And without her, it was really not a good situation. So Mr. Swoon and I went to, a few days later, I mourned for 3 days. I did nothing but cry, locked myself in this house, and just cried. And so after that, I got dressed and we went to some animal shelters. And lo and behold, right down the street from me is this shelter called Loving All Animals, and it's wonderful. It is big and it has property and there's room for the dogs and the animals, and it's clean as a pin. So anyway, we went in there, and I was really hoping to have sort of this romantic moment where, just the right dog looked at me and I looked at them, and we locked eyes, and, and we both knew we were for each other. So when we walked in, there were 2 dogs, 2 poodle mixes to the right in this big area, just to themselves. And they were happy. Their tails were up and they started barking when they saw Mr. Swoon and I. And anyway, the people came out, can we help you? Greeted us and all that, kind of showed us around a little bit. And then I said, well, can we see the dogs? Tell me about the dogs here. And so they said, oh, well, those are poodle mixes. They're brothers. They have to be adopted together. And they are from, they were given to us because this is what I understand. They actually were owned by an elderly man who died in the house, and the dogs were left with him. And eventually the animal control people came and got the dogs and the man and whatever. I didn't ask a lot of questions, but the dogs had not been cared for. And so they were so matted that each one of them have one crippled back leg. And then they had been to a vet dentist and had almost all of their teeth pulled because they had such bad teeth decay. But she said they have all their shots, they're neutered, they're chipped, the vet says they're great. So, but they do have to be adopted together. So I was like, I didn't really want males and I didn't really want two dogs. So anyway, we kind of, thought about it, talked about it, Mr. Swoon and I. And well, anyway, long story short, I adopted the two poodle mixes and I brought them home. I have video of them. I had to name them. The shelter said we don't even know their names, so they don't have names. So I named them. Benny is the bigger one and Jet is the little one. The little one is not much smaller than Benny, but a tiny bit. And they are glued to the hip. They are so close to one another. They stick by each other. They're calm, they're loving. They are not potty trained, which is a real problem I'm having. I'm mopping my floor 3 times a day. I've got my laundry going constantly, but I have to work on that. And so I'm looking over here because one of them is sound asleep. And they are, well, actually 2 of them are. I get a kick out of them because they act a lot like Shelbe, and I think, oh, Shelbe would have done that same thing, or oh, Shelbe used to do that, or oh, that looks just like something Shelbe would do. So they have brought me a lot of joy, and we're still getting to know each other. I take them on several walks a day because of the potty business, and they do their business when we take a walk, but they don't even go out in the backyard. Go figure. So I have to work on that. And anyway, I can't wait for you to meet them. I can't wait for you to see them. And so with that, I'm going to hang up so that I can share the video that I have taken of them with you guys. Once again, before I sign off, thank you, a heartfelt thank you. What a loving community of women we have. Such support and love and real sorrow from people who knew Shelbe from YouTube. So I want to say thank you so much. It was very comforting to me. Thank you, a special thank you to Rockstar Mom. P.S. I love you. Mwah. Until our next conversation. To your sissy? You want to say hi to your sissy? Yes, this is the little one, and this is the big one. This is the one that reminds me of Shelbes. I just got him groomed. Oh my goodness gracious! Look at those tails a wagging. Look at those tails. Oh my goodness gracious! Look at those tails. Oh, and I have. Oh my goodness.